hello there, Graham. Good morning to you.
How's it going, Keith? How are you doing coming off your championship win last night?
Well, I'm trying to keep it together, man. Just trying to process everything and enjoy it as much as I can. How are you doing?
Doing awesome, man. I had the chance to meet you back at an Evolve show in February, so it's we're still obviously the NXT North American Champion at that point. That was back when we had fans in the arena, and that was only to think it was 4 or 5 months ago. It's been quite the whirlwind of the last couple months for you and just everyone else in the wrestling world, you know?
It has absolutely been that, but it has also been a wondrous, joyous learning process as well.
100%. So coming off winning the NXT Championship last night, what's the first thing that you do to celebrate, and who's the first person you either talk to or call at that point?
Well, the first person that I spoke to was Cole, actually. And that wasn't on air, obviously, but there was just a moment after all the celebration and the pyro that I wasn't expecting and the confetti and all this crazy stuff, and I'm covered in stuff, but I look down and I see him still in the corner, and I'm just like, that guy is awesome. and so, I'll go ahead.
Oh, no, sorry, go ahead. I was going to ask the next question, but you can go ahead.
I was just saying, in that moment, I had to tell him that he gained a different level of respect from me, and I shook his hand, and that was the first conversation I had.
And, of course, it was custom to see Triple H take a picture with every new champion NXT. You were no exception. That picture went live on Twitter immediately after the event. There was a picture floating around on social media right afterward of you and Triple H from last night, as well as a picture of you brawling with Triple H in the IOA on Raw when you worked as an extra back in 2009. That's got to be like a full circle moment for you, right?
Yeah, so a lot of people have been sharing that, and then also sharing something from recent history in my career, and it's always, it tickles me so much to look back and be like, man, this guy was beating me up, just a little over a decade ago, and now I'm standing here getting the finger point photos, and now I get a double serving of it. It's something real special, man. And it's one of those things that you kind of have to cherish, and you need to take a moment to just stop what you're doing, just sit, take a deep breath, embrace it, and say, "Wow, what a journey this has been." And so, yeah, when I see that, dude, it's some people call it coming full circle, and I guess I have to concur. I have to accept that that's what that is, and it's really awesome. Really freaking awesome.
And Tom Phillips mentioned, too, in a tweet right after the show went off the air, and I thought this was incredible. I didn't really think about this until you tweeted it out, how you won the championship at the Great American Bash, kind of the birth child, so to speak, of Dusty Rhodes. And a lot of people have made comparisons between you and the great Dusty Rhodes. How does that to get those type of comparisons on such an iconic night in the return of the Great American Bash, an event that we haven't seen in close to a decade?
So, Dusty Rhodes holds a different level of special for me. I don't really necessarily consider myself a comparison to him, because he was something very different and unique. But he is the reason, and he is the creator of Basket My Glory. And so, that guy, from the way that I present myself to the way that I speak, is someone that has been a guide for me. So I don't really necessarily always relate to the comparisons, but I will always and forever relate to him as a pupil and as someone that loves him and appreciates him.
And it's been months that you guys have been competing at the Performance Center, to the point now where for fans, it just kind of feels normal to accept the current circumstances for what they are. Did not having that, electric crowd that we've seen you compete in front of at a takeover, whatnot, did that ever occur to you during the match, before the match, or is it one of those things where you're just happy to have just appreciated that moment at all just happening,
So, yes, I can say I miss the crowd, but that's because of the connection that we have. We being me and the WWE Universe. But I don't think that it's something that really registered for me in that match, because there's such a certain level of intensity and a certain level of competition where the focus is so heavily on the fact that, hey, this is a championship match. Oh, but wait, this is not only a championship match, this is also a champion versus championship match. And now this is a winner-take-all match. And you're talking about the two top guys in this brand. Dude, I was locked in. And it didn't matter who was there or who wasn't there. Adam Cole is someone you give respect to when you're in the ring, and he commands it. And you can feel it in his aura when he steps in the ring, and if you're not there to do battle, then you're probably going to get stomped over. You're probably going to get, well, I got kicked in the face a lot, actually. you're going to get taken out. We'll put it that way.
And you guys, I know you guys had a match as part of the the Worlds Collide tournament about a year and a half ago. Other than that, and maybe some not dark matches, but like live event matches you guys have worked, have you had much history working together against each other before WWE at all, you and Adam Cole?
No. We had never wrestled before WWE. I say that my comeuppance was slightly late, and he was, I never crossed paths with him until WWE, and it's unfortunate, but man, it was special even in that match, so it was a joyous competition.
What are your immediate plans for the NXT North American Championship, a title you've held for almost, over 6 months now? Do you plan to hold the both belts, a la Seth Rollins a couple of years ago, or is it going to be more of an Ultimate Warrior situation where you focus on the NXT Championship and possibly vacate the North American title?
So I'm not sure just yet. I think in this moment, in this circumstance, typically when it comes to accomplishments, I knock out the accomplishment and it's on to the next thing. But in this circumstance, I've kind of promised myself that I would just celebrate this experience and cherish the moments and revel in it for as long as I can before I figure out the next step. And though I'm not certain what I'm doing under the circumstances right now, whatever it is that I do, I want it to be just as meaningful, just as monumental as it was for me in winning both of these championships and becoming the first ever North American and NXT World Champion. So I need to search myself and see what feels best to me.
And it was only 2 years ago from last month that you made your debut in the crowd at NXT TakeOver Chicago 2, but it wasn't until TakeOver War Games just last November that you had your first major match on a TakeOver show, and then obviously it's been just firing at all cylinders since then. How much have the past 8 months been a whirlwind for you, from winning the North American title, competing at Survivor Series, Royal Rumble, and everything else? Have you been able to, for lack of a better term, bask in that glory and soak it all in since everything kind of started rolling?
I think it's sometimes difficult to find time to do that because our industry is so very go, and there is no off-season. There's none of that. You need to find a way to stay healthy enough to compete while also being a high-end competitor, especially as a champion. And so I personally think that all of this began the moment that we went live on the USA Network for 2 hours, man. And it has been that whirlwind ever since then. And I've actually cherished it. I love that busyness. I love having to find a way to keep it together each week. And that's been a joy for me. So yeah, it's been a whirlwind, but I loved it. Like the Tasmanian Devil, my man.
Did you ever think there was a chance in the last 8 months, or the amazing run that you've been on, that you would maybe move on to Raw or SmackDown, especially after the amazing showings that you had again at Survivor Series, at the Rumble, maybe impress the right people, move on without ever actually fulfilling your destiny as the NXT champion? Did you ever think that was a possibility, or did it never really cross your mind at the moment?
I mean, the reality is that's a possibility in every circumstance. There are plenty of people on Raw or SmackDown that have never had a match in NXT or never won a championship in NXT. And sure, I think that that's something that's like, I don't know. It's hard to tell what's going to happen because you just can't predict the future, right? So my thought process, my belief is just to try to be as ready as I can for whatever circumstance occurs. But in this circumstance, I just happen to keep myself ready enough for a 25-minute brawl, knockdown, drag out, main event battle with Adam Cole and come out victorious.
And that championship has such a long lineage with the amount of people that have held it in the last 8 years. There haven't been too many champions, but the people that have held it have gone on to great success in NXT, on Raw, on SmackDown. I mean, it's like a who's who: Kevin Owens, Shinsuke Nakamura, Robert Roode, Finn Balor. The list goes on and on and on. Do you see yourself being in the same, having been in the same company as those same people, with those former NXT champions, achieving that same level of success that you are right now on the level of a Raw or a SmackDown? Or are you just kind of more content of making the most of living in the moment of where you are right now?
I think it's both. I very much believe in making the most of my present, but I'm also a very strategic human being, and so for me it isn't just about my present. I'm also looking into the future and trying to think of the ways that I can facilitates more competition and also capitalize on my own wins and my own accolades and make everything mean as much as I possibly can. Because to me, when you make what you do mean something, those moments matter so much more. And I didn't create it. Somebody else started calling me a moment maker, and I just ran with it. So I think my duty is to continue making those moments in whatever capacity that's going to be, and I'm hopeful that that continues to be in high-caliber matches because that's what I love.
And, I mean, you've definitely lived up to your nickname as the Limitless Keith Lee, and your potential is indeed limitless from what we've seen so far in NXT, but also the praise that you've received from several legends, including, as you've mentioned yourself, Mark Henry, bringing back the big man magic to WWE and pro wrestling on the whole. How cool has it been to get that type of praise and to really, to prove those people right, get that moment, say, yes, I am indeed the NXT champion. And I know you talked about last night to Mackenzie Mitchell right after the show about how your coach had passed away this year as well. And everything, I mean, just kind of, everything seems to be happening for a reason. How much has that meant to you?
Yeah, the actuality is that my coach's funeral was the day before the match.
Oh, wow.
I was actually fortunate enough to attend that, and seeing his family, they had heard some things regarding me dedicating things to my match, regardless of the result, was for him. And yeah, after everything was done, that I spent a lot of time with him on my mind and the family on my mind, because his son Clayton is someone that when I was training, he was around often and sometimes would train with me, and that guy was just a monster in the ring. And so we had some special moments, kind of reliving the past a little bit when I was there training, kind of coming up in the beginning of my career. Yeah, looking back on all of that, it was special for Killer and the family, But, yeah, it's also special for Mark because Mark is someone that has uplifted me ever since I first saw him at a takeover I wasn't wrestling on. And he was like, I can't believe you're not on this. And we had a talk, and a lot of things transformed for me after that within me. And it's helped me along. But, there's plenty of people that have offered me knowledge and little trinkets of things that I can make use of, from him to Terry Taylor to Triple H to Matt Bloom to Road Dogg to Norman to Scotty Tuhati. And when you take all those, even The Undertaker, man, I don't give him enough credit. That guy, even before I ever made it to WWE, he doesn't even remember. We had the conversation. He doesn't remember having the conversation, but he gave me a bit of knowledge when I was only a few years into this sport. And then he gave me more recently. I cherish these things and try to show them. Not only do I listen, but I apply what you say. I want you guys to know in case they never get to hear me say it again, we don't get to hang out again, or whatever it may be. I want them to know that I value everything that they give me at the highest of levels, and I will do my best to uphold and uplift them in everything that I do in this sport.
And we got to see that last night as he became the NXT champion for an amazing moment. Keith, I really appreciate the time. Congratulations on the win, and best of luck in the future, my man.
Thank you so much, man.
Thanks. Take care.